empowerment specialist and advocate for educational and spiritual growth and development. And that is not something I come to very often, and I look forward to having this conversation and learning more about all the great works you are doing. But I am wondering what led you to become an advocate for education and also spiritual growth and development.
I would say that stems back very early on. Before I could even remember, my parents tell me that I would line my baby dolls up and teach them anything that I knew. I wanted to recall it back and share it with anyone or anything that would listen. I've always had a passion for teaching and for sharing any knowledge that I had. And then particularly, I became very fond of being able to say, hey, these are things that helped me throughout my life. And I want to be able to share that with others that may have a similar struggle or may have a similar dilemma. What can I do to be able to give that back? So I would say that I have been a teacher since I can remember, and that it has just been a gift that has just formulated in me over a period of time that has just taken over different forms.
Wow, that is amazing. See, I can imagine you having all these dolls and then you just teaching them all these things instead of like trying to cook them food. That's awesome. So you have a long list of degrees and experiences that help others educationally and spiritually. Can you tell us more about your work experience and how the idea come to mind when it's come to educating people as well?
Yes. I've learned that one of the things that I grew up as a daughter of a Baptist minister, and very fortunate to have my father and my mother who were both anchored in making sure that we were spiritually sound-minded, as well as educationally understood why we did what we did and always sought after new knowledge and understanding. My dad and my mom often would lead Bible studies. And those Bible studies and really being a part of youth ministries, geared around always, I can remember having books that they would center it around, that they made what we were believing spiritually applicable to what was going on in the life around us. So ever since my foundation was always a joint effort, that we didn't just believe what we heard because someone said it, but it was tested, it was tried, it was sought after, it was researched, it was understood. And that level of understanding was important, that we didn't just believe because someone said, believe this. There was power in you knowing for yourself and you judging that from the things that were around you. So those two things, I think, were married within me at a very, in my formative years. And whether or not they knew, and all of my other different teachers knew that that's what was happening. I would say I don't ever take that for granted as well. It's that any piece of literature that you read, any type of media print or anything that you're being exposed to, you are learning and you are judging that, and you are beginning to see whether or not that is applicable to what you have or what is going on with you, or whether or not you're going to accept what is being said. And you don't know whether or not to accept that or not if you haven't been exposed to something different. And so my real piece right now is making sure that people know that they have options, that they can be exposed to several different things, several different views, to be able to see that you don't just have to take one particular word for it, but how well do you absorb and to see what else is out there for you? Where is your hope being built upon? And being able to go from there. And so anytime I get that opportunity to, engage in something different, engage in ideas that maybe I go to things with an open mind and then test it, right? And so whenever I can share that with a student, with an adult, with anyone, I do that. And just making sure that they are empowered to understand that there are choices that they get to control and make in regards to their life.
I love that. You are in control of your own life because when you're watching media now, you hear a lot of things, but a lot of time, even when I talk to my son, I said, not everything you hear is the truth. Sometimes you need to stop yourself and question it. Because if you just accept everything, then you're going to end up in a lot of messes and you're not going to know anything in this world, really, because people want to tell you things that's probably not good for you, especially when it's come to media. For me, when I don't even watch media anymore, telling you the truth, I don't watch news. A lot of things, I just stop watching them because I feel like they are just brainwashing, not really giving things that's going to help our next generation or that's going to make us to educate ourselves to be better, to go out there to make ourselves better. So you bring a very great point, and then I love what you are doing because our next generation need it a lot. And if women like you keep stepping up, I see a huge difference of them not being brainwashed.
That's exactly right. One thing that I am seeing that is happening is that we are not giving our young people the right to dream. And everyone should have the right to dream. And a dream should not be determined, and a goal should not be determined or limited by someone else's view or perspective for whatever reason of what you can or cannot do. Your dreams and your goals are supposed to be things that are not tangible on your own right now. They should be things that you are inspired to reach that doesn't seem realistic in the moment. And that's when faith is married and or purpose is married with a desire and a hope. And so if we crush hope, if we limit opportunities, then we stifle creativity, we stifle growth, we stifle a world and a society that stops evolving. And if we don't continue to evolve, then what joy do we have in that? And if we don't continue to evolve, then we will continue to try to do things in ways that are not serving the masses. And one thing that I see crying out in our society right now is that we are continuously trying to do things that is not serving us well. It is not serving our purpose as well. It's not serving our students well. It's not serving our educators well. Any sector that you are looking at, our businesses, our churches, we're not serving people well because we are continuing to try to say that it has to happen in this method, in this format, in this way. And most of the time, the reason why that is the case is because of fear. And fear that we're either going to be left out, or fear that that we will not know how to get it done, or that, someone is going to do it that maybe looks in a way that we don't want them to look, or someone is going to do it that we don't feel like deserves to be the one that's chosen to do it. And the thing that gets me is that we can combat those people, but when it is you as an individual that begins to put that stipulation on yourself, or accepts that invitation that someone puts out to you that to, limit yourself, then we have a bigger issue. And so what I strive to do every day, no matter at what age it is to get people to not be in the way of themselves. That little desire that you have that you feel like is too big, or that you can't be the one that should be the one doing that, or that you deny that and step out and understand that we need exactly the gift that you're bringing. You're not creating anything if it's already there. So that's why this feels monumental. That's why this feels like it can't be done. And so it can be done. It's going to require you to do it. And you are exactly what we need in order for it to happen. So that's the big piece there. And that's what we hope that, that's what I hope that I am doing. I tell people all the time, I'm a lifelong learner. And so we all are, right? And so
Yes.
education doesn't just stop in grade school or in one moment or at one time. We have to continue to strive to want to be better, to be the best version of ourselves, to show up in places the best way that we can. And we can't hold back. Like, now is not the time to hold back or retreat or withdraw. Now is the time to get up every day and to give that very best version of you. We cannot hide that gift. And it is really going to take every single person to do it.
Exactly. It cannot just be one person because it's impossible, right? So it's all of us that have to come together and then make that happen. And like you said, the time is now, especially we went through this pandemic. I think that a lot of us life changed through this pandemic because we were not expecting it to happen. We're not ready for it. And that's the first time in my adult life, I get to see United States drop down so badly. And it was kind of like, that was not expected at all.
Exactly.
At all. And it's happened. So I think that should have been a wake-up call for us to say, hey, what's happening in the media, what these people, politicians are putting out there doesn't mean you need to follow it.
Exactly.
There's something else you can do with your life to change what's going on around us right now. And it starts with you, with your voice, and with what you're capable with. Even if you think you are not capable of it, but let somebody else help you through it. Like someone like you that can tell it's possible. You can go out and do it.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing, as you were mentioning with the pandemic just exposed some of the things that were there within us, and it exasperated some of those hard hit areas. But the other thing that the pandemic did was that it equalized and a lot of things to say, hey, what do we have access to? And the biggest piece that I saw was that character becomes extremely crucial, more so than, yes, I'm an educator. Gaps always exist. Gaps will forever exist because we live in a society that will rank. So there will always be a number one and there will always be a bottom. Therefore, there will always be a gap. So when we're looking at who creates the gaps and the systemic oppressions and how we began to see, we basically were able to see how these things are somewhat man created, as well as what do we embrace. But even still, what the pandemic talk was, what is the measure of your character? How do you respond in times of crisis? This crisis just didn't hit the poor. It also hit the rich. This crisis just didn't hit African Americans or minorities. It also hit their counterparts or white people. It didn't just hit females. It also hit males. And so what was the resilience? What was your character? What was your resolve? How did you show up? It did not just hit those that were in the body of Christ or this church or not that church. Everyone's character and belief was tested. And now what we are seeing is who is accepting what narrative? What narrative are you going to believe and accept? So we have always been very good at identifying the problem. We can continue to say that we have a problem with violence. We have a problem with school shootings. We have a problem with mental health. We have a problem with healthcare disparities. We have a problem with the those that are being marginalized. We continue to echo that out. But how and when will we start to be able to address? We have a problem with character. We have a problem with being able to say that I care enough about this particular counterpart to be able to want to do something outside of myself. And sometimes I believe that we are put in these positions to be able to say, hey, how did you feel when this happened? And you never had that problem before. And now that it is in your home, now that it is in your environment, what is the issue? What are you going to do about it? And then we do what we often still do is point fingers. We point fingers at the politicians. We point fingers at educators. We point fingers at parents. We point fingers at the students. And nobody has had to take the time to pause and say, I got to do individual work. And this as what will my character be? What part will I play now into going in here and doing what it's going to take to right the wrongs that have been there? We've had to face our mess, and we've had to, and how we're going to do that, your character is going to play out. And you are going to, so I don't accept, yes, I have moments where it can seem to be overwhelming. And this can be and it can seem to be that a win is happening, but I don't choose to accept that narrative. I identify the problem. Here is the problem now. What are you going to do about it? How do we move forward in where we are? And how do we hold ourselves and each other accountable to ensuring that we are working beyond ourselves and really spreading this out, because this is not going away. This is not going away. And until we understand that it is going to take being back in the basics to being able to do good by each other to the best you can, it is going to continue to implode. But I have a strong faith and belief that we are better than what we are saying that we are. And that there are definitely one of my highlights is that I am able to see generations of youth and children that are doing some things that are much better. They come together way better than what maybe their parents doing, my generation are doing. There is a desire there to do that, but we have to empower ourselves to position ourselves back to understand that we have control of this. We have control of this. And what will we allow to dictate what is getting ready to come out in our lives?
You took it to a whole higher level. That's all that I can say. But I do have a question on that when you talk about characters, which you make a lot of sense when it comes to that, because we do need to work on ourselves. So what advice would you have for someone to take that step?
Mm-hmm. So the first thing, and this is a journey, right? It's a process, and I call it, in seasons. And you have to understand where you are in this season in your life. The last book I wrote was My Praise is Greater Than My Struggle. I was going through a lot of what I call deaths. My mother-in-law died untimely death. I was without a job, and you lose a job in that sense. And a lot of transitions was happening. And what happens is that we die daily, metaphorically, and we grieve some of the things that we once had that we don't have anymore. And that is sometimes understanding that we also have to grieve processes that we don't have anymore, or that transitions that are taking place in our life that we don't have anymore. And the first step is being able to recognize and to understand that it's okay for me to grieve that. It is okay for me to stay in this place and recognize that I have an emotion and a feeling of grief, and that I have lost some very big and important things in my life in this way. And then that next step for me is that although I am continuously to struggle, it's a simultaneous process that happens. I acknowledge that loss and that grief and that I am hurting. And then at the same time, I also acknowledge all of the things that are around me that are working, that I have access to. Even in the grief of my mother-in-law, all the things that birthed out of new life and what she had given, and my reflection and what still comes from that today. I would not be in ministry if I had not have given those remarks at our service. There are things that come out of putting down something and shedding new life. That is the cycle of it. And so that next piece comes with acknowledging all the things that are there that are working, which we do not do. We don't take the time, and society doesn't allow us to do that, to sit and process what just really took on and what took shape in my life. Like, you have to process that my world has shifted. I am in a new space, and give yourself permission and grace enough to say, I'm crying in this moment. I won't stay here long. Okay. And I will grieve while continuing to move forward. And one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King is, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, don't stop moving forward. And the moving forward piece is what we have to do. So I tell people what inch can you take today? And you got to stir up the gifts that are in you. And in order to stir that up, it can't sit still. So continue to do one thing within it. Acknowledge the 7 good things that happened to that one, although that one seems very hurtful right now. Acknowledge that it hurts, but continue to stir that up. Continue to mix it in, because when you mix it in, even there's a reason why that salt and sweet and salty has a very nice blend to it. A salt sweetie mix, and even when you're making it up, tastes very good, because when you mix those two and you stir those up, power comes from that. Power comes from the struggle that you have when you're able to continue to put in that you're capable of getting through whatever you have and that's there. So to not stay complacent in it, to acknowledge it and then continue to move forward with it, and don't dismiss any one of the two. It's the balance of it. And you will continue to be able to walk into purpose. And you will be able to then be able to become what you will begin to be able to draw and see your purpose more each day, and the strength will come. It will come.
Wow. Just keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then don't try to ignore the other one. You need both pieces to work together in order for you to get where you need to get.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my goodness. I'm learning so much today. I don't think I will never let you go. I'm just going to hold on to you right there, you know? So now you started Composing Minds, Inc., a nonprofit organization. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I'm fortunate. I married my college sweetheart, and he is a phenomenal man. We met in college, as I was saying, and we met through the love of music. We had a we had at Appalachian State is where I went to undergrad, and there was a position with the Appalachian State Gospel Choir that required you to be the student choir director is what it was called. But you needed to know how to play the piano, and you also needed to have some vocal ability and train and direct. And this is a God divine story. I know that this is one of my ways of knowing that God joined us together. We were talking and I was like, I want to try out for the position, but I cannot play the piano. I was a vocal performance minor, but I couldn't play. And he was just like, yeah, and I'm not a singer. And so I said, I wonder if they would allow us to audition together. And we did. And we auditioned together. And we have been in ministry since together. We ended up getting a local church and boom together where we served as like the choir director and music there. And we then from that one summer, we said, because I was from, my father's church was in Durham, North Carolina, or is in Durham. And my husband is from Charlotte, and that's we live in Charlotte now. And he had a youth group in his youth choir. We said, I wonder if we could get the two of these choirs together and we do a little concert together. We knew what it was like. Music it lifts your soul, it brings you together, and we wanted them to experience that. We got our two youth choirs together, and what started with two youth choirs ended up over a period of time. Of course, we became more than friends. We ended up getting married, and now we also serve as he serves as the minister of music at St. Mark's United Methodist Church, and we've done music ministry together a lot. But we had what we called a youth gospel explosion. It was a convocation that brought together youth and children from all over the Carolinas. And it expanded from just two choirs to, we had at some point, we've had over 18 different churches or entities participate. And we've had over 200 youth come together, and the conference grew. And so what came from a love of music ended up being that I wanted to extend that to more programming. What stemmed from one workshop that was tied around music is now become to understanding that programming and developing a conference for youth, in particular this age, to be able to come together and to be able to be exposed to different things where we had brother to brother and sister to sister mentors coming in. And my love for reading. At one last conference, we had a huge donor where I had a huge book fair, and every book was free that students were able to come into. A literacy facilitator came in and spoke with them about books and getting kids interested in reading, and a summer love program for that. So Composing Minds, then, was a nonprofit that continues to put different programs together for outreach of youth and children. Yes, coming around the composing part is definitely through our love of music together, but we've also been able to extend scholarships and to be able to establish some things for students that are going in a love on the next level. And again, that being able to provide them with leadership opportunities, mentors and mentorships, knowing the power of having someone that can guide you to know what the next steps are, because you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you're not exposed to. And so again, that exposure piece is very critical for us. We do things with etiquette and how do you talk? How do you present? How do you show up? We've had sponsors really be able to come in where they have been able to sit and have a 5-course dining and understanding how do you do that? How do you have conversations around the table where our students and children are not intimidated to go in any room, and that they understand that they belong there, and that they know what to do, because it's oftentimes not the capability or the intelligence that is stopping them. It is the invitation and them being at the door and having the opportunity to be there. So that is how Composing Minds sort of stemmed, just through a love of being able to give back and just tying that into and what worked for us. What worked for us, and that was a huge part of our growth and development. We understand, hopefully, continues to work for them.
So I also feel like the love of the two of you also passing on to that nonprofit as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a beautiful thing that when you can share in ministry with each other. And so being able to minister together, because we have lots of conversation and lots of things that are, I don't take that for granted, actually. Iron sharpens iron. And my spiritual belief says that when one can chase 1,000 and two can put 10,000 to flight. So when you come into union with one another, when you can partner together, then your dynamics explode. What I can do on my own, yes, can make a difference. But what we can do together takes off where the math doesn't even add up. It becomes even dynamic. We can really change. And that's the importance of collaboration and partnership. And that's why we say that, especially in marriage, yes. And especially in ministry, that's awesome, yes. But anytime we can collaborate on, and anytime people can come together with the same vision and mission, you are going to have what we call just exponential growth. And that's what we're needing. We're needing exponential things to happen. And so that's why collaboration is so important. That's why we have to start coming back together and having conversations with people that we may not have had conversations with before. But if we have that shared vision, if we are all really saying, going back to that moral character compass, that we want a better society, a fair and equitable society, that we really want every child to have an equitable, good education. If that is our true goal, if everybody has that same mission, then we can do that. We can change that, and we can really get that done. And we can get it done exponentially. We can get it done quicker than what it's seeming like, if we all want to go in and put that work in.
You're absolutely right with that. And I think that with your nonprofit organization, that's exactly what you are doing to bring the youth together. Let them know that you have a seat in that table. You are welcome to come, and you are welcome to ask all the questions you have in mind. And someone will reply. They will not tell you, shh, don't talk, but they will tell you, because I know as a child, that's one thing. Even when I was in school, you start talking, the teacher said, shh, don't talk. It's like, okay, I just had a question.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Just have a question. And we find that with adults too. I find that anytime that I ask someone, would you want to do this, or do you want to be there, that they volunteer. They are there. But we do not often always make it easy for people to feel like that they have a place to actually do the work. I don't think that parents wake up every morning and say, I'm going to send you the worst child I have, right? They are sending you the very best that they have and that they can do. But it is a matter of, are we taking the time again to pause and to say, let me hear from you? And there is an ability. And like I said, I'm preaching to the choir, both institutions. We do not make it as easy. It can be very intimidating. It can be, people want to serve. They go, how? And so how can I do it? I don't know how to come in. So that's one of the other things that I'm really wanting to do is to create platforms where you can plug in that, if you want to do it here, you can do it here. If you want to be a part of Composing Minds, if you want to serve here, you can. There is room for you. God will make room for your gifts. And so therefore, we have to be a little bit more as leaders. Leaders have to be a little bit more of creating the space in the seats, moving out of the way, being able to embrace people coming in to be able to say, I have an idea or I have a desire even. Like if you just have a heart's desire, we have to make space for that. The rest of it will come together. Do you have a heart's desire? And I believe that if you have a heart's desire, then that need will show up. There is absolutely a match somewhere. What you are desiring to do, someone else has a need for. And we just have to make sure that it's matched up. And that as leaders that we are making sure that we are doing whatever it takes to make sure that we are giving opportunities for it to be there. Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. You know what? I wish that every leader, every minister actually think like you. Just want to say that because I don't meet them too often. I just wish they think like you, because if they do, this world will be in a lot better place. I mean, like a lot more leaders will be born, a lot more people will want to come up. Because I believe there's a lot of people out there that want to do things.
They do.
But there's no opportunities for them. So instead they stay quiet in that little box until they die. That's not what we were born for. We were born to do a lot more than that. So if we can give a hand, why not give a hand to help another sister, to help another brother stand up and do what they're supposed to do? Because all they need is a hand. They just need your help.
They just need your help. And, again, we all have those different gifts, and somebody will validate that this and confirm that this is, what you do well. And you will be able to get in there. And I'm not saying that we go in and we just say, oh, okay, such and such be the leader of this now. But can they not work in it? And can they not? And the other piece of it is, as you were saying, the pandemic exposed this. It didn't matter what your degree is. It doesn't matter what your title is. I need you ministry in particularly happens all the time. It doesn't happen just because you walked in the building of a church. You are it. And ministry is your gift is going to look different than maybe your mental model, than what your mental model is. It was one time, I realized I was like, even those of us that are of the spiritual belief, God said to me one time, he said, Tiffany, I don't need you to praise me. I can get a rock to cry out to me. You need to praise me. Church is for you. It's not for me. And sometimes we think that whether we're talking about God, that we are doing this because it is because he's going to get something out of this, or whether we're talking about leadership, or whether we're talking about our parents, whomever you're putting at the top. It is not for them. It is about what it's going to do for you. And how are you growing in that? And what are you getting out of it in doing this? Because it is not what they need. They have it, and in order, you're going to be restless. You're not going to be able to have the withal. You're not going to be able to do it if you're doing it to please anybody but what is going to be good for you and your growth. You won't make it through, because that is where that is not what happens. So I'm not going to church because, God is saying, I need you to be that. In fact, that is not how he went about. His biggest sermons were not in the synagogue. They were gathered around with multitudes of people coming up and around him. So how are you serving? And how are you showing up again and giving back? So one is erase your mental model. Whatever is stopping you from giving and serving, whatever is stopping you from doing that. Now, again, I believe there's power in corporate worship, and because that benefits you. That's how we take off. We are aligning. It's like going to a live concert. It's saying, oh yeah, the record was good and I saw it on video, but you needed to be there, right? Because there is the energy of what flows and the spirit of that uniting. You cannot beat that. Again, that's for you, right? That is for you.
Yes.
So you want to surround yourself. You want to get that. As you were mentioning, what's feeding your ear? It's either depressing you or it's empowering you. And so you got to watch what you're around, and go with that heart's desire. It's in there. And once you start wanting it, I promise you an opportunity is going to come up. You're going to hear something. You're going to see it. Whatever you seek after is what will come to you. So if you are seeking after wanting to give and serve and wanting to give back and want to be used, it will come. You will start to be able to see that. And if it's not in that place, fine. There is another place where it's going to be.
Wow. That is amazing. And you are absolutely right with that. And I wish that it's the way you put God, and that's always the same way I always see it. It's great to go in a church and pray and be with other people in the spirit of God. But at the same time, it's not where it's ended. It's not just you go to the church. It's like there's something else even when you're home. Sometimes I learned to myself is that I don't need to be in a church to be connected with God. I can be connected with God by just standing in a bus stop. I can be connected with God by just being in my kitchen cooking dinner. Yeah. I can be with God anywhere I am, and I don't need to be in that church to do that. Yeah. And I love that. And that's at the beginning, you started talking to that about even with your parents when you were a child. And there's one thing that you said is the fact that it's not just what you're hearing that they're saying to you, but how are you processing it? And how are you going to use that to help other people? And I think these things I don't hear them often from people, because a lot of time when I talk to people in ministry, it's always, I'm reading you the Bible, what's in it, process it, deal with it. And that's how I always got it from them. But from you, I got this different message, a message that's saying that there's another way with this. You can take this, you can learn from it, but also you can pass it on to the next person next to you. You can do a lot more with it. And you don't need to be in this church to do this. Right. You can be anywhere else.
Absolutely.
Where you are. And that's the message I get from you, and I love it. And I think that teaching our kids that it's a lot more, because when they are in school, they can still be with God.
Absolutely.
When they're in that terrible things where the gunmen come and start shooting, they can still be there.
Yeah.
They are not alone.
We don't leave our religion at the door. You don't leave who you are there. Like it's not a thing that I take it off. And I no longer they say, oh, they took prayer out of schools. How? Because if you're praying, it's still there. If this is where you're going, I don't just stop being who I am. It is a vocation. Yes, this is a location. This is not who I am. This is not my being. Okay. My being is such that I have and again, that's why I'm saying that we have to be really careful. We gave that over. It was not taken. We gave that. No one can stop you, just like someone can't stop you from saying good morning or articulating or being nice. You are suppressing yourself. So therefore, just because it's not a collective or a corporate prayer doesn't mean that you are not praying and interceding in your own way. So It's not out. It's not out. I can say that it's not out of where I go because I'm there. So you don't just leave you. You are bringing you everywhere you go. And so then that's again why I am saying you have to get up every day saying, how can I, clothed in it? We are not, and that's where we are missing the mark. We have confined ourselves. And I will tell you um, demonic spirits, they want to take over regions, not just areas. And so therefore it is not just one individual. That's why it's saying that it goes. So we have to be careful as believers to understand that, I can separate what is being used in you, right? And say that, that is being used in you is not you, but there is something that is also greater in me that can also shut this whole thing down as he did. Okay. In a day, he shut it all down, in a moment. And that's how he works. And our ways are not his ways, and our thoughts are not his thoughts. And every time we are unveiling the mysteries of who he is. That's why we have to be careful as ministers. That's how we have to be careful of those that are guiding and in their way to understand that we interpret, the word is timeless. So that means when he says it never fails, that means how is it applying today? How it affected then, it affected them and they interpreted that way. There is a new and fresh interpretation of today that you don't have to be held to the same thing. You are fighting the same spirit, but there is a higher power in our belief that we can fight. It's just going to look different. It may look different. And again, we got to have that boldness to come back and to say, I'm not giving you this. And every day make that conscious. It's a really simple question. Is it really gone? Or am I just giving it away? That we give way more away than what, or we give way more away. We give way more of our power away than what we realize. It is not taken. It is given. Like we've given that. Because God operates as a person of choice. He gives us a choice every day. Okay. And so, yes. He wants you to choose him. And so therefore, what are you going to choose? How are you going to choose? What are you going to choose to say and go about the day? And I'm telling you that I'm choosing to say that our generation is a generation that is prosperous, that we have not failed, that there is a continuous piece, that they are innovative, they are creative, that it is not the majority, that it is very much minor, that we are not doing a well enough job of letting it be known. And we are not circulating enough. We're not liking and sharing enough. And that's why I love this platform, is because are we liking and subscribing? Are we sharing the good news? Look how many women are doing great things. Look how many people are really giving into their communities. Is the story getting out? What are we telling? What are we sharing? Somebody needs to see that. Somebody needs to see more than just the crime that's just getting liked and reshared and retweeted. And that we own that. We own that. We can take this technology and do good by it. Like in this platform, it's the same thing. It's the same YouTube platform. Social media is not bad. It's with the content that you're creating is what's bad.
That's
I'm not liking something or sharing something that is going to demise people. So it's a difference in knowing, but what messages are we giving out? And even when we comment on or make a statement, we're still feeding it. We're still feeding it. And like you said, sometimes it just means if I don't have to look at my favorite network, I won't look at it. It's what are you getting out there? And there is a season and a time for everything. And there is a responsibility that we have to know what is going on. I'm not saying ignoring it, but it's about that mix again, right? You got to do them simultaneously. I want you to be aware so that we can know how to handle, but we have got to start giving the messages that are out there.
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't have this, like I said, I don't have this type of conversation too often, but when I get them, it's inspiring to, especially when I hear them from other women. Mm-hmm. It's make a lot more difference, a lot more to hear that there's other women out there that have the same aspect that I have. Mm-hmm. That the fact that I wake up today, I'm positive, and hell no, I'm not going to go to Facebook to become a negative human being. That's not in my calendar. And then if I have to open Facebook, I'll open it, go straight to what I need, and I close it and I move on with my day. And that's how I see it. But also that get me to another thought is that I wanted people to be able to understand more about your nonprofit organization. Is that only you can only support people in the state of North Carolina, or can it be anywhere within the United States itself?
Well, always since COVID, we have not had one of the big conferences that we normally do, but it's definitely where it is open, where you can support. I am getting ready to, in next year, getting ready to have a more global conference for women, actually, a women's conference, because what has been said to me was that in order for me to go back to helping our youth and children is that I have to go back to being able to empower the mothers and the women. And so actually, this is my first announcement of that. I was speaking with two very strong Tanyas in my life, Tanya Schultz, my biological sister, and a godly sister of mine who's a big visionary, Tiffany Little. And God had been placing it on my heart that it was time to do a bigger women's conference in the area. But battling, like I said, with doing the women's, but with the children. But one of the components of Composing Mind is that we do parenting workshops in educational section. And so one of the pieces that God told me in this time was that women, that Satan likes attacking women because women are those that give birth. We birth the ideas. We are the nurturers. And we are the ones that are going to be able to, we're going to deliver, right? We're going to deliver, and we know how to deliver in hard times. But I have noticed that he has to begin to attack. I got a message, but I often help on both ends. I normally help mothers maybe write schools to be able to advocate, help give voice to how they advocate for students in choice, and maybe to help a parent maybe understand how to deal with a student that doesn't fit the structure. It doesn't mean that they're not intelligent, but they have to be taught in a different way. And I noticed that our parents, our women, are exhausted. I've noticed that I got communication from a mom that they could not get their child to come to school, that they are getting them up, but they won't come. They won't go. And that they are at a loss. In other words, their power as the parent has been taken away, and I will say that it's been yielded over. And so in 2023, I am going back to where the seed is. And we are going to have a conference for women. And this conference is going to touch on marriages and families and empowering women to understand their role and purpose. You don't have to be married, don't have to have a child, but there will be a strong section in how I know that it is being an attack on them giving up, us giving up. If we get our women back in a place of their authority and their true strength, everything that we are hearing is going to be tempered. I can promise you that. The exhaustion that's come, the not understanding, we have played too much into the narrative of the single parent. We played into, I'm a mother raising a boy. I am really getting ready to say this. I understand, and I am very grateful that I have a covering. My husband is my covering. There is definitely a piece that I know that he does well. I have two boys that it is an extreme blessing. There is an extreme blessing. There is, and he absolutely gives back to other young men and in other ways that we know that are there. But we have yielded to a narrative where there has for so long, how many young men have been raised by single mothers and parents that are dynamically successful, that how many, and what I've seen is that our women have brought the fact that I don't have the money, I don't have the resource, I don't have the husband or the parent, and to be able to help. And so therefore, I'm going to let this child do what they're doing. Or I am also seeing the woman that out of guilt is saying, I wasn't right in this time of their life, and so I don't want to come in and be the parent now. They are doing this because I didn't have X, Y, and Z, or they didn't have X, Y, and Z. And that is the conversation that is getting ready to shift. And so I am restarting with, I need to talk to the parent, and we're wanting to call it something different. It is not maybe going to be in a church building. It may be, but it is going to be where we are being able to get communities of women together, and you inviting someone back together that you are the very one that I want to be able to talk to be able to take your position. Because this is where the order is going to need to happen for the generation that's getting ready to be the lost. We are the first teachers. And it is not too late.
It's not with us.
It's not too late. It's not too late. And I don't care whether you've been in prison. I don't care whatever you did before, whatever the case may be. What is your heart's desire right now? And if you want to be a good parent, if you want to be a good wife, if you want to be whatever your vocation is, a good leader, a good steward, a good servant, a good person, okay, a good person, this is where I need you. This is where we're going. And so I hope people join in that efforts. I hope that there are some women leaders out there that would want to partner with me, that would want to be able to know that there is a space where they can give and that they can help in this conference if they want to help in that way, because it's all going to roll back to the child, to the student. And it is all going to roll back to youth and children. But I'm pausing, I'm processing, and we are going to see who needs to be spoken into right now. And in
Exactly.
order for us to hit that piece. And it's time to empower our parents to know what their rights are, what they need to accept and what they don't need to accept in the right way, because we have a lot of this, I have a huge lens. I am an educator. I am a mother. In that piece, I'm understanding. I think God has me in all of those sectors for this reason right here, this moment. How can we galvanize and bring that together to see how it's going to work? When this happens, I'm promising you that a big shift is going to take place. A big shift is going to take place.
Absolutely. And you're right. We give birth. We're the one, it all started with us. So if there's anything, we can fix it. We have the power. The only thing is, again, go back to what you said, is we take our power, we give it away. And it's time for us as women to stop doing that. And by the way, how can someone join your programs?
Okay, well, you can reach out to me. You can go to my website, tiffanyalittle.org. And if you go to my website, there's a contact information button there. You can just share that with me in any way that you feel like. It's a little bit there where it shows a little bit about my nonprofit. I can be reached on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can direct message me. Tiffany A. Little is my tag, at Tiffany A. Little, any way you see fit, any of the social media sites. I would love, like I said, God is saying that you give it out there. You're going to organize it, and it's going to come together, and we're getting ready to create a movement. And it is going to be a movement, and it is going to take, I know that there are great people out there that is waiting for the bit, that is going to join together, and we're going to be there, and we are going to be ready to serve the people. And I can't wait to hear what they all have to share. So, website, social media sites, Tiffany A. Little, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, they're all there. So direct message me or do the contact form. Either way, someone from my team will be able to reach out to you, if not me myself. And so I'm excited. I'm excited about what is getting ready to come out, and what we're planning for. Also excited about this next piece of what God is moving with. Also, my next book, which hopefully is going to come out in 2023 and probably be at the event in the women's conference, is called The Appointed Time. And that book is going to, it really goes through that there is a God appointed time. There is a divine time for everything that is happening. And that God, and being able to recognize that there is a season and a time, and that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord. And when you are able to, the book is going to talk about when you're able to recognize that God is going to do exactly what he said he was going to do. That seed that has been planted in you, it is not going away. There is an appointed time that he is going to release that work within your life. And hopefully the book is going to show you, and this conference is going to show you, how do you navigate when you are waiting for that time to come. Job ended up saying, he was like, I will do the will of God until my appointed time has come. And understanding that even in all that he went through in that time, Job knew that goodness was going to come. It is going to happen. It is going to happen. What is being birthed in you, it is going to happen. I promise it is going to happen. If whatever that desire, whatever has been placed in you, it is going to happen. And even though you are enduring in the moment that it is going to happen, there is an appointed time for it. And when that time comes, you will be able to see it all, and that fruitfulness is going to happen. And I am saying that there is a shift that is about to take place, and God has appointed this time in your life and in that. And if I could just get you to believe it and tap into it and to exercise some of these things that I know that has been testing me with that, then hopefully, we can move mountains, we can shift, we can take this narrative over, and I believe in that.
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't that movement, you are not going to be alone on it, because there's a lot of women, even men, that's going to support it. You'll be surprised,
yes.
but it will
And
happen.
please, I did say this, but yes, men are welcome. You see how much I talk about my husband. I could not do this without him. Yes, absolutely. Men that are watching and listening, one of the things that I am going to speak to is that women empowerment does not equal the non-need for a man to have its position. And like I said, I recognize that I am covered, and that is a blessing. And so the value of a man and men coming into this, like I said, my husband and I, we started this together. Men are welcome. We will need you. I need you. Everybody needs you in that. That is not what it means. And we cannot do this without there being there is a place for that. There is, my husband talks about my dysfunctional rescues, but he understands that I nurture the boys, right? But I've learned how to yield and understand my position. That's all a part of it. And that doesn't mean that, that there is not power in what I'm doing, or that there is that I'm succumbing here. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that, and we're changing that narrative too, about, what does this really mean? And it is nowhere near that. It's about becoming the best version of you in the space in which you're serving and the vocations you're serving in, whether wife, mother, daughter, sister, mentor, mentee, brother, father, son. We need it all. This is kingdom building time. This is yeah. I'm glad you mentioned it.
I love it.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Please, men. Yes.
Do you have any advice for women out there?
Yes. I know that I've said a lot, but what I really want women to do right now is to really get into your place of thinking about and praying about and really seeking God about what He desires for your life. I want them to, and speaking of great men, my husband, and whether it sounded very simple, but it released me so much. And I'm not talking about, this was maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. This was not like years ago. But as I was telling you, I can feel myself being in a shift or in a transition. And my husband gave this to me, and I want to give this. It freed me a lot. He said, I want you to think about what it is that you, Tiffany, sincerely want to do. And he said, I don't want you thinking about me. I don't want you thinking about the boys, Cameron and Chandler. I don't want you thinking about, all the other areas that you're giving in right now. I want you to just think about you. What is it that you really want to do? And I know that he could safely say that to me, because he knows that there's no way I'm not going to think about that. I want to be a good wife. I want to be a good mother. I want to love them in a certain way, and how that shows up. But what that did was that gave me the freedom to say, because this is something that I think that we don't do, is to really think about what it is that you desire right now in this season of your life. And that might look different. And that's what he was saying to me. He recognized that where I am now, where my sons are now, it's different. They're sophomores in college and sophomore in high school. I'm in a different season. And so therefore, pause for a moment. Give yourself this gift of dreaming. What is it that you really want to do? And because I'm a person of faith, I've recognized that it's easier life for me when I do what God. I told him, I said, God, I want you to align my heart's desire with what you have me to do. And so what I start desiring was things that he was going to have me to do. And what he has me to do, he makes the road so much easier. And so take some time, do an exercise, even if it's 15 minutes a day, or if you want to take a whole day to just think about it. It doesn't come to you all at one moment, right? It might, but give yourself time to really work that out. It doesn't mean that you got it all figured out. I just announced two things, right? I said I'm doing a conference in 2023, and I said I'm releasing a book in 2023. Guess what? The book is not completely done. The conference is not all written out, but I've stated it. And I know that that's there. And I gave myself permission to say, that's enough right now. I want every woman to do that, whether it's down to what you want if you want to be in a relationship, or what you want your family to look like. How do you want to show up as a mother? How do you want to show up as a person seeking a mate or a wife? How do you want to show? What do you want for your life in every single area? What is that? Give yourself permission to do that with no guilt attached to it. Nobody sees it. He didn't ask me to report back to him. And I will tell you, I went back to work the next day with such a joy and a freedom, and it was off a thought. Nothing happened but a thought. And I've been on cloud nine ever since, just sort of ever since that. You have permission today. And whereas I hope that I am telling you, I want to be what was given to me. I want you to think about what you want to do. Who do you want to be?
Thank you so much.
In this season?
Oh my goodness, thank you so much, Dr. Little. I love it. I love talking to you. And I think that I can talk to you all day long because it's so impactful. It's educated and also inspiring. It's also make you think more than what you think every single day. And that I think that's what we should be learning from one another every single day. And I thank you for taking that time out of your busy schedule to allow us to share your knowledge with other people, especially women, because right now we need that more than ever, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. It is a blessing. I speak growth, exponential growth on this platform. It's awesome.
Thank you so much.